I think that one of the biggest misconceptions that I have run into with a lot of the clients that I have, who are all actors, is that they are going to instantly make a ton of money and not necessarily have to work very hard for it. That it's just going to come to them. So I always say you have to work really hard and you have to be able to be humble and take opportunities that come to you, whether they're non-speaking roles or one-liners, especially if you're starting out. And I get a lot of actors that buck the system with that. So what I'm saying is don't leave money on the table and just be who you are and know that your body of work is still growing. So you can't just be this top star or think you are a top star when you're just really starting out. So that's a big misconception, that you get one role and then you're a superstar. It's a lot of work.
I would say in my line of work, kind of piggybacking off of what she said, a big misconception starting off is that you make a lot of money. What I do is a lot of hard work. I'm like literally coordinating 4 people tomorrow and I'm on a 5 a.m. flight. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of coordination, it's a lot of organization. And then, you know, we work in the service industry, so you deal with a lot of personalities, especially dealing with celebrities. Not all of it is bad, but, you know, you're really giving somebody an image where they have to answer to not only their fans, but their team, their management, their spouses. So it's just a lot of opinions that go into what I do. And I think a big misconception is that for me, and I would say starting off as a stylist, you really have to understand the client's personal style, right? You have a client who is a size 2 and they fit samples and you have this vision of what they can look like with hair, makeup, shoes, but that's not their style. So I think starting off in this industry, I was trying to push this idea because I get the opportunity, I want the moment. I want, you know, to get what I need out of it, to say, hey, I styled this, I did this, but then it's not their style. So then they don't pull it off, or they are uncomfortable, or they don't look right in the pictures, which is the content that I need to be able to book my next job. So I think it's important to understand someone's personal style, get them comfortable in that. First job, I'm just making you happy, right? Unless you are completely open to what I have to bring to the table. And then eventually, if I decide to continue to work with you because we vibe, I like the personality, I see where you're going, it's up to me to kind of help develop that style to get you into doors that you wouldn't have got into, whether that be getting you in designer fashion shows, getting certain brands on you. That's my job. So I think for styling is really just developing that relationship with the talent, with the client, in order to really impact your experience for your bread and butter.
You know, one of the greatest misconceptions also is that not everyone's journey is the same. You know, some people see someone doing something, it's like, oh, what are the 2 steps that they took? You know, all right, I'm gonna take those 2 exact same steps. And it's very rare that those steps are going to get you the same place that person got that person there. A lot of times there are other conditions that are involved. Sometimes that person may be in a different region of the United States. You know, sometimes someone may be of a different age range, right? Or someone else is upcoming. You know, it's just a little different. They might have taken a class with one particular person that you probably did. So, you know, to point out, you know, ways in which to maximize your journey, you know, find out what your niche is. You know, find out what that thing is about you that stands out beyond everyone else, because that's going to help shift your journey just a little bit to get you to where you need to be, where people are looking at you saying, hey, how did they get there? You know, and then from that point, you know, they have to figure it out for themselves. So I just wanted to talk about that because I see a lot of misconceptions. Oh, XYZ is on that show. You know, they're with this representation, they took pictures here, I want to do the same exact thing while I have it. A lot of times it's not the case.
The biggest one outside of like things that Gabby and Wink already mentioned. Just lack of understanding like how much power you actually hold in the whole equation. Like a lot of our hustle, even as models or designers or creators in general, is about getting an opportunity from an established machine, like somebody who's already like got it on and popping, or Warner Media, an HBO, or Vogue, or if I could just get this look from Gucci, or if I could just get this opportunity to ghost design for Louis Vuitton or whatever the case may be. But by doing that, I mean, that can be part of your hustle. You definitely want to go down that alley, go down that venture. But at the end of the day, you want to create and not necessarily wait on that opportunity. Create, don't wait is becoming like this cliche that we keep hammering home, and it's a generational thing, but it's real. We have so much power between YouTube and the platforms that we have access to and the social media. You really don't need anybody's permission to like go out and do what you want to do. Whether it's you're playing an instrument, you're modeling, you don't need it. Like I think of a Don Cheadle quote that I've heard him say in several interviews, or even boxers I know. Like in boxing, it's a lifestyle. It's not necessarily a sport. Like if you finna box, you finna box. Ain't nobody gonna tell you can't box. You don't, like in theory, you need a gym, you need a punching bag, you need equipment, you need a training plan, you need a regimen, you need coaches, you need promoters, but all that stuff cannot happen. You can still wake up and go box. You don't need anybody's permission to go and get it in, run 5 miles at 5 a.m., shadow box until you can't shadow box anymore. So with modeling, you don't need anybody's permission. We've seen so many models from Boutique Factory that we've encouraged to do so, and without our encouragement that we've met through casting that just go and model, like on their Instagram. And not like the, you know what I mean, the corny IG model that's becoming like this thing, but like actually going out and finding a runway in their apartment building, in their neighborhood, at a park, on a beach, anywhere, and getting with a creator and saying, hey, do you mind getting this video of me hitting a runway? And you keep doing that on a regular basis, you'll be surprised how many entities start reaching out to you. Will Gucci hit you up overnight? Probably not, but you'll definitely get the attention of a photographer or a videographer or somebody who's trying to add to what you're doing, and you can add to what they're doing. But just seeing us focus more on like owning the power that we actually harness, as opposed to like, well, if I could just get on this show, if I could just get this placement, well, yeah, I mean, put energy into that, but don't forget they need you, for sure. Yeah.
Talk about it.
I think PR is something that as soon as you're starting to define yourself as a designer or a model or whatever it is, it's an important part of that strategy that you're going to put together to, you know, really reach the top of your goals. And just to quickly backtrack to another misconception, a lot of times, you know, a new brand might think, great, I'm signing PR, I'm going to be on the cover of Vogue. It's not going to happen that way. I wish it did. And, you know, every once in a while, maybe. But it really does take a lot of behind the scene work. So being really cognizant of those steps that it takes to make it to the front page of Vogue, and really trusting your partner, your PR agency, that they are getting your brand in front of the media and telling your story in a way that, you know, really differentiates your brand and is interesting. So really having that partner that can help tell that story as you're growing your brand, but just being very mindful that it is something that is constant. You know, we talk to editors every day about different brands, so it's something that you're constantly telling different stories to editors and really, you know, that day-to-day kind of grind to really make, you know, great media placements happen.
Networking across is essential because, for one, it's a little easier to obtain to bring somebody up or to network with someone who you see on the same level or more tangible to get to. For me, you know, starting off in this industry, you know, you get the opportunity to work with a celebrity or a talent, public figure, whatever the case is. And, you know, dealing with PR, as you know, PR can be somewhat gatekeeping in my field of work, because obviously they want the best placements for their clients. Maybe you're doing something that is super important or something that you're passionate about, but depending on who the talent is, you don't necessarily get the pulls from the major brands, right? So you have to have a network of independent designers or, you know, people who have really dope stuff that you still get the job done, because at the end of the day, I'm getting paid to produce. And regardless of the limits that I have, I still have to produce and still have to be proud about my work. So it really makes you work harder in order to complete the job and be happy about it. So networking across is important. People always come up to me, brands, independent brands, or, networking to say, yo, I like that. I know somebody who can benefit from that. Here's their contact, another stylist, another brand, connecting brands to actual PR. And I have a funny story about that. I'm sure you're all familiar with Sergio Hudson. I'm a person, I watch television. That's where I get my inspiration from. And I watched the reality show that he was on with Rihanna, and he won this reality show, right? He was her next up designer. I ended up finding him on social media. I was having a client at the time, 7th Streeter, for BET Awards, and I just really wasn't successful getting many pulls for her. She had just got started. Obviously, she's a huge name now, but at the time, she had just came out with her first single. So I reached out to Sergio in a DM, and I was like, yo, I think you have some dope stuff. I want to pull some stuff. I have this new girl. She's going to be it. And like, he didn't even know at the time, like, how to formulate, well, what's a pull? Like, I'm just giving you the stuff. So I'm like schooling him on like, I just need to borrow it, right? I end up taking a top that I pulled from him and took it to the showroom to try to find a bottom for it. The showroom loved it and ended up setting up a meeting with that showroom and Sergio. That showroom was Style PR, which is one of the biggest showrooms in LA, who dresses everybody from the Kardashians to Rihanna to J-Lo. I ended up not getting the top on 7th Street for other reasons. He ended up taking this meeting with the showroom, ended up getting signed to 7 PR. The very next week, J-Lo had the top on. So it was like networking across works and it benefits. And I mean, as creatives, like, we're people that we just know, like, we know what's hot. We know who has talent, regardless if nobody is listening to you, regardless, like, you have to have that innate within you. It's nothing that somebody can give you. I know it's dope. You don't have to tell me it's dope. It doesn't have to be the most popular thing in the world, but I'm gonna make it dope because I think it's dope. And I think networking across really helps to really give somebody the next level up. Sergio is at the top of his game. He's in several stores. I'm not necessarily taking credit for that. We have a friendship, but because of me just believing in him and giving him an opportunity, he can now afford me opportunities and other people opportunities. So networking across is important.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So for the actors that I am in touch with every day, the thing that strikes me the most is the passion. When I see passion in an actor, and I see passion in their auditions, and I see energy, and I see people that are fearless. And when someone's fearless and they just do it, you feel that. And guess who else is going to feel it on the other side?
Audience.
The audience and the casting directors. So you can't, I mean, it's contagious almost, because sometimes I look for auditions from different actors just to entertain myself because they're so good. And when I see that they have an audition that comes, I'm like, I want to see what they're doing because it's awesome, and sometimes it's just a matter of time. And so that's one thing, is definitely the passion. And we keep going back to networking. When I see people that are really hungry for this and call and ask the questions, they're not afraid to, call all the time. And sometimes you have to tell them, okay, I don't work on the weekend. Or I do work on the weekend, but I'm not trying to talk to you on the weekend, like every weekend. It's okay, But those are the people. Those are the people that really show up all the time, and they're very interested. They want to jump in, and they're hungry to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I want to second Gabby on that. I mean, I think there's a few things. There's never ever really, for me, never really ever a set thing. It's, the passion, the work ethics, the ability to take notes and follow through on those notes. So if you're speaking with someone and they say, hey, this is great, but, I wonder, what if you made this kind of adjustment, and, that might make sense. And then next time you talk to them, it's, hey, look, I followed through. What that does, it tells you they can take notes. It tells you that they're willing to take direction. It tells you that you know, that they're not too full of themselves. A lot of times you'll meet people, it's like, yo, I got this, yo, I got it, right? You see, I'm ready, I can smile, and it's just like, you know, this is bigger than vanity. You know, this is not about how do I appear on camera, or you know, how many people I can get to like my pictures or my video because, you know, I was able to show something on the outside. A lot of this stuff is inside. It's all connected to your core. And so I kind of pay a lot of attention to that. You know, and again, it speaks to passion. It speaks to work ethics. It speaks to, also, you have to have it. Let's be honest. Talent speaks for itself. Excuse me, I got a little cough here. Talent speaks for itself. You know, and so a lot of talent speaks for itself. And having the job to be independent, to do your own work as well, you know. Don't just rely on, hey, I'm gonna get here, and once I'm there, I'm gonna ride, you know, because, you know, I've made it and I've arrived.
Machine.
You know, there's so much more to it. It's a collaboration, it's a partnership, you know, and for the folks that I work with, I need to know that we're gonna have that, you know, because we're both out there fighting. You know, I don't know how many people realize this, but, you know, reps, we go to battle. We go to battle, and sometimes when we don't get what we want, we're just as, we're feeling the pain too. You know, so it's about that part. Being prepared, headshots, you know, your packaging, you know, how do you best sell yourself? You know, if you can't sell yourself to me, how do I sell you to anyone else? You know, so you have to, you know, be able to take your strengths and the attributes that you have and make that help you stand up. You know, allow the work to speak for you, not just your mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely want it to be a partnership. So again, we don't just bring in any brand and say, yeah, we'll get you PR, you know, we'll do this and that. We really want to make sure that we believe in the brand, that we see potential, that we know that we can get results. So for us, it's really looking at, is the brand, you know, consistent? Is the branding all the same? Does the website work? Is, you know, is there a shoppable place to go? Is there a product, or is it just, you know, an idea? So really being realistic, what are we pitching? What is the story we're telling? That said, my agency really does work with a lot of emerging designers, so we like to help develop that story with you. So finding a partner that, you know, you don't have to have all of the answers. We can help kind of craft that story with you. So we don't expect you to come with, like, you know, media friendly documents and have all the, you know, if you knew how to do PR, you guys would do it yourselves. So I think really using our expertise and allowing the client to kind of work with us and trust us, that we know, you know, the steps to take to get this brand, you know, some coverage.
Man, it's everything. Like literally, it's everything. Because of what they're looking for, vague, right? But not even what they're looking for, but what it takes is audacity. Like, it takes cojones, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know, not to be vulgar, but it takes that. Because nobody, like none of your favorites or none of the people or entity that inspire you got to that position in your life to inspire you by just like taking it easy or not taking big risks or not jumping out there. And then risk leads to failure, and then failure, as we all know, leads to like learning and success. Hopefully,
yes,
that's the equation.
Yes, sir.
But no, it's everything, bro. You got to be audacious. You got to do things that like scare you, intimidate you, make you feel like, well, damn, if I'm gonna climb this mountain, like I need to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm gonna climb Mount Everest, I could use some more push-ups or some more cardio. You know what I mean? So you want to look at things like, what's your Mount Everest, and how do I get closer to that? For sure.
I don't know. That's an interesting question to answer because I would say yes, there has been progress, and then no, there hasn't. And it really just depends on what the situation is. You know, for instance, like this Saturday is NAACP Awards, and you know, maybe before the pandemic, NAACP Awards wasn't necessarily outside of people of color looked at like a great event. So, I mean, I can speak from my experiences with PR and things of that nature. when it comes down to NAACP awards, BET awards. It just, you know, you don't get the confirmations that you do for Grammys, that you do for MTV, that you get for SAG, Oscars, obviously, because they're different spectrums. But, you know, NAACP is Black royalty. It is the Oscars for, you know, productions of color. So why aren't we getting, you know, the same, you know, things that we get for other things? But I would say now, you know, this year, it's been like a total turn. Now NAACP awards is hot because Black people are hot. So not that we haven't always been hot, but in a public relation led like industry, now people see the opportunity where you have like award-winning actresses like Viola Davis getting awards and showing up, and it took all of these A-listers to kind of come to NAACP to make it a thing. And now it's like, yes, we want our talent there, we want our clients there. So yes, there has been inclusion, and then, you know, just there hasn't been. I think progressively things have gotten a lot better, and I think we just have to continue to push the needle. We have to continue to just work, and we have to continue to figure it out. We have to continue to make relationships, make people believe in what we have to do, which is not always the easiest thing. I'm a person that doesn't take no for an answer. If I email PR and they say no, I'm asking questions. Like, you know, as of today, I was told no for something. I'm like, I've been in the showroom before. It's 3 floors of dresses. Like, you can't spare 3. And then it was the coming back to, well, let's make an appointment. I'll come in. Like, no, I don't want older styles. I want new collection. This is a nominee. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have to advocate for our people because they deserve it, which is why we're here. If we just take the status quo, or if we just take what people give us and we don't push, and mind you, a lot of times, it's the person behind the computer, not the brand, they're the representative, they are the gatekeepers. So it's really, how do I go above you to go to someone else? Well, I know the designer personally. I'm just trying to go through their PR, you know, so now I'm hitting the designer, put me in an email chat with PR. This is what I want. This is the only thing I'm getting. Like, you just have to know what excellence is about. So I feel like there is and there isn't, but we are the people that have to push the progress forward.
Right.
And as long as we have that mentality, it will always progress.
Yes, sir. Totally.
Just to kind of follow that, I think it's also about finding brands that do really want to work with the talent as well. If a brand is saying no, like absolutely push back, like find out why, you know, ask the questions. But I think there also are so many brands that are excited too. So finding those kind of brands to partner with. But in terms of inclusivity, yes, I have seen a change, definitely. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. But in terms of editors who are writing more stories about Black designers or Southeast Asian designers or whatever it is, they are asking those questions a lot more. They want to know behind the designer, who is the designer, where are they from, like what's their story, what's their mission. So there's a lot more opportunity, I would say, over the past few years to tell those stories, and I think that's been really exciting and great to see. But at the same time, it can feel a little bit surface level to see, you know, 15 Black designers to shop this month when it's kind of repeating those same angles. So really pushing the editors to tell bigger stories and learn more about the brands than keeping it, you know, more surface level. So that's really, you know, what we try to do every day in PR for our clients, really push that message and tell the brand story.
Yeah.
So I would say that the roles have expanded a lot more and are much more diverse. But if you look at the content and the shows that are out there and all the streaming services, they are much more diverse than a few years ago. And even since COVID, think about it. Think about all the new shows that have come out, even in New York, East New York. You know, we have like just a plethora of shows across the board. And then you look at geographically where production is happening. And I can let Angelo speak to that because, you know, Atlanta, what do they call Atlanta? Black Hollywood. So what's coming out of it, Atlanta, is so diverse compared to what we have seen in more recent years. So, and I've noticed in the breakdowns that there are more and more roles for people of color.
Nice.
Yeah, that's real talk. I got a second H Diddy's notion of like, yeah, it is better, but it's also not to a degree as well. Like, and from a couple different angles, from the angle of like filming TV, being an actor, somebody who's like more leaning towards directing and producing as well. Gabby hit the nail on the head. I know Wink is gonna hit the nail on the head as well. But yeah, there is a lot more of our stories out there, and that's a beautiful thing. And it's like diverse. It's like telling all of our angles, because it's not just, oh, this is a person of color. It's like, what does that mean for that person? There's ratchet people of color, there's sophisticated people of color, there's bougie ratchet people of color, there's educated people of color. So like, how do we get into that whole depth? Like, and the era of like these like singular notions of like boys in the hood, juice, fresh. Like if you notice, that era is gone. Like even the slave movies is gone to speak about a specific like black experience. We're now into a space of like black opulence and black wealth, and what does it look like for that man or woman on the other side of that boys in the hood or juice or fresh story? That also understanding, once you see how it all kind of operates, that's beautiful in and of itself. It's beautiful for our nieces and nephews and our kids to go on TV and see that they feel represented through their narrative, that they can find something in like all the cajillion channels to identify with. But where is that coming from? Like, and there's like these mandates that come down that kind of tell what network and what platform, what they're looking for the next semester or a fiscal quarter, fiscal year, things of that nature. So when you follow that trend on up, it's who's sending those mandates out, and how do we get more people that identify with our experience to send those mandates out, and not just the one that's emailing it forward, but the people who are in the room sitting around deciding, okay, here's the direction we should go for this next year, this next 5 years, this 10 years, and why? Because they all need us, you know what I mean? And to even switch gears to speak from the perspective of Pretty Fly Society and what we do, and to be able to sit in rooms with entities like, not to quote any of these entities directly, we try to sit down, we work with entities that really respect our mind as a people and as a culture, as diverse as that is. So nobody I'm naming in particular, but you know, the Marriotts, the liquor companies, the Gorham Brothers, all of it, and some of the companies we don't work with is because they really didn't get past that stage of, okay, why do you guys want us? Yes, we keep the lights on. Yes, we do a lot for the culture as black, brown, diverse, Asian, Hispanic, the LGBTQ community, everyone. Like they need it all. And the way they voice it, the way they express it, you know, there's these token words like urban and this and diverse and inclusion, but why do you want that? Do you believe in it, or you just want it because you know it's going to move the needle for you?
Yeah.
So it's important to discern like that and what's happening there. Honestly, man, I think of a quote from like the 60s and the 70s and the civil rights movement. I've heard like James Baldwin say it, but like, I mean, you know, multiple people have said it, but like during that period, there was a lot of like, we all look at it as a very kumbaya period right now, but it was hectic. Like people were getting whacked like regularly. The whole community was divided in the sense of how are we going to achieve these civil rights? Are we going to sit down non-violently and get spat on and dogs sicked on us? Are we going to organize like the Panthers, do our own thing, make ourselves strong, like the Nation of Islam, different things of that nature? Are we going to make art about it? Are we going to let people know in other households? Are we going to reach the kids of other households with our stories so that they're looking at their parents like, ew, is this you? Is you moving like this? Are we going to reach people's households? Because that's important too. Are we going to economically change the game? Are we going to get on our Sam Cooke and our James Brown and own labels, own radio stations? And from that same school of thought, or like that path comes a Jigga, or you know what I mean, an Oprah, somebody who can pick up the phone and call a mayor of Ferguson when it's going down. And that mayor of Ferguson has to hear, hey, Sean Carter's on the phone for you. You got to make a decision whether to ignore that or get on the phone with somebody who you know is going to try to hold you accountable. But to me, those are all different fingers and all come together and makes a fist. So there's no right or wrong way to fight that fight. It just matters how are you fighting that fight for you. You know what I mean? No pressure, but like we're all in this thing together. So we all make a fist. There's no wrong or right way to do it. It's just how are we going to attack it. You know what I mean? I don't know, but that's just kind of it.
So I'll answer your question directly and say yes, there's been progress. But then I'll also just add a little context to it. I think, you know, politics will be politics, you know, and there's usually going to be a response to what the needs are, of the world. And so from there, the content shifts accordingly. There's pain, people felt George Floyd. They feel, the different slandering moments that have happened with the LGBTQ community. Anything that you see, if you're paying attention to the news, if you're paying attention to CNN or Fox in two different spaces, right? Whatever you're paying attention to, those things come out in storylines. And when they come out in storylines, you'll get the things that, you'll get the roles that support it, because it's speaking to what's happening, it's relevant. Those drive the stories, those drives the shows, those drive, of course, if you have those shows, then you need the characters to fall along in those spaces. Then you also have mandates, right? Work, I forget what they call it, but you have to have, there are certain quotas.
Yeah, there's a quota.
Yeah,
100%.
right. So if you think of affirmative action, and what that did for the community of underprivileged and black folks who, there's this statistical disparity of progress in certain spaces, and so you kind of, the networks are paying attention to this stuff, right? The streaming state, they're paying attention to it, and so that's where a lot of those changes come from. What I always try to pay attention to, and I always try to say is, you still have to represent. A lot of people fall into, this network is, and I'm thinking more from a content perspective, people who are creators, right? This particular streaming service, they're taking this kind of content, so we're just gonna throw them that stuff in that lane, but where's the quality, right? Where's the strength in message? And so I think when this topic comes up, there's a whole colluded vision that I have in my head, so I'm just trying to stay in one place with it. When this topic comes up, I always think of, at the end of the day, you still have to represent. I say that there's progress because there are opportunities. You take it and you represent, but you represent with quality, you represent with your skill set, you represent with who you are as a talent. Don't just find out that, Pretty Fly Society has they have an opening, and they're looking for female models between the ages of 20 to 30 because there's a huge need. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's the spot to go. And you're just throwing yourself in there. Are you ready? Are your materials in place? Can you body that stage, that runway? Can you hit those camera angles? So you want to make sure that you're prepared because at the end of the day, this is going to come down to who you are. Talent speaks for itself. A lot of people are looking for these answers. I got it. I changed my pictures. Oh, that was the issue. I did something wrong here, or I need this kind of a PR person. At the end of the day, it's gonna come down to you. And I think I laughed. You had mentioned something about Don Cheadle earlier. Yeah. I actually have a funny story about Don Cheadle. I'm not gonna go there. But one thing, for the one time that I did have a chance to meet him. But the one thing I will say is that everyone's out here. They're hustling. Everyone's out here. They have to make it to another level. No one has arrived. So everything that I'm paying attention to when I'm talking, when I'm advising, when I'm receiving information, because I'm still learning. Right? We're all like lifelong learners. Don't ever believe that you've made it to a space where you're like, I got this. I'm omnipotent, and I'm throwing this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, this is all learning, and what I would suggest is when it comes to, what's happening with some of the opportunities that are there, some of these great changes, you still want to find ways to separate yourself from the masses because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be about. Showcasing your niche, showcasing, your uniqueness, and being able to push yourself forward and show who you are, but be prepared. Don't rely on those opportunities because it's the it thing now or it's the in thing now. There are opportunities. Still make sure that you are standing above the others. And at the end of the day, you're going to go where you need to go, and you're going to be where you're supposed to be. and that's it. So hope that
Ladies and gentlemen.